Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. We start today's video with a story of family drama, but before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. She thought the HOA made her queen. Our neighborhood is a small cul-de-sac community, maybe a dozen houses total, tucked behind the main road. It was originally built by one older couple who had this dream that their kids and families would all move in and make it one big family block. That didn't happen. Their kids live out of state, and the rest of us regular folks ended up buying the houses. For years, that couple ran the HOA. At first, it was fine. Nothing strict, just the basics like keeping lawns trimmed, trash put away, and no rusting cars on blocks in the driveway. We all figured it was fair enough. But about 2 years ago, things shifted. The wife, let's call her Karen, started treating the HOA like her personal power trip. Suddenly, she was going around inspecting people's homes, peering over fences, and sending out notices about the tiniest, pettiest things. At first, I ignored it. She'd complain about someone's flowers being too wild or about kids leaving bikes in their own driveway. Whatever, she was just being nosy. But then she came after me. One day I got a letter in my mailbox with a fine attached. Apparently I'd violated the HOA rules by letting my dog sunbathe on my porch without a leash. Now mind you, my dog's a 40-pound mutt who loves lying on the porch. She doesn't bark, doesn't chase anyone, just soaks up the sun like a cat. The letter claimed she was too big to be unrestrained and that I had to either keep her leashed at all times or remove the animal from the property. I was furious. My dog on my porch? That was the line. So I showed up at the next HOA meeting and politely asked for a full copy of the HOA bylaws. I wanted to see exactly what rules I was supposedly breaking. Karen gave me this smug look and handed over the binder like she'd just won. She had no idea what I was about to do. Over the next 2 weeks, I went through that binder line by line. I highlighted every single rule and regulation. Then I walked around her property with my phone out, jotting down notes and snapping photos. By the time the next meeting rolled around, I had a 4-page list of her violations: peeling paint on the trim, mismatched shutters, weeds taller than 6 inches in her flower beds. Yes, the HOA actually had a clause for that. And the kicker? Her shed, which was sitting 2 feet over the property line. And just to sweeten things, I pulled together another 3 pages documenting all the violations she had tried to fine people for that weren't supported by the bylaws at all. Like a neighbor whose kid left sidewalk chalk drawings, or another who had a flag on their porch that wasn't regulation size. At the next meeting, I let her talk first. She went on her usual rant about how people weren't taking care of their homes and how the HOA was losing control. She even gave me a little side eye when she brought up pets running loose. Then I stood up. Me. Karen, I've reviewed the bylaws like you suggested. I have some concerns. I dropped my stack of papers on the table. Me. Here are 4 pages of your own violations, complete with photos, and here are 3 more pages of false citations you've issued that aren't backed by the HOA rules at all. I've also spoken to other homeowners here, and they'd like to be heard. One by one, my neighbors chimed in. People who'd been quietly stewing about her nonsense finally spoke up. The guy next door brought up how she fined him for having his trash can out the morning of collection day. Another neighbor pointed out how she harassed his teenage daughter for parking in their own driveway. Karen's face went from smug to pale to bright red. She tried to interrupt, but people kept piling on. Finally, I said, given the repeated harassment and misuse of power, I'd like to make a motion for a vote of no confidence in the current HOA leadership. And just like that, the tide turned. We voted. It wasn't even close. Not only was she removed, but the majority also voted to dissolve the HOA altogether. Without the HOA, life actually got better. People kept their homes tidy because they wanted to, not because of threats. Kids played outside without Karen looming over them. My dog still naps on the porch every afternoon, leash-free and unbothered. Karen, though, couldn't let it go. She still walks around complaining to anyone who'll listen about violations and property values. But now we all just laugh. The best moment came a few weeks later when her own next-door neighbors who'd had enough of her constant nagging snapped back at her. Neighbor, Karen, have you ever considered that this is exactly why none of your kids ever came back after college? Maybe nobody wants to live near you. The look on her face was pure defeat. She shut up, turned around, and walked back inside without another word. Karen's power collapsed under the weight of her own pettiness. By the end, she didn't just lose her title, the entire HOA was dissolved because she'd poisoned it beyond saving. And our second story. He lost millions twice. My name is Alexi. I work for 8 years in an antivirus software company in Cardiff, in an office by the bay where you could watch the rain fall at 3 different angles at once. I joined back when we had just 3 servers crammed in a closet and proudly called ourselves the Welsh Cyber Squad, pushing out updates to clients from Swansea to Newport. My turf was the updater, integrations, custom policies, the gray magic that made sure NHS systems quietly stayed patched and local councils didn't crash their accounting just because a GPO decided to pull a prank. On my team were Cyan, Queen of Rejects, Eoin, the human script, and Dylan, integration wizard and tea enthusiast. No point boiling the kettle for nothing. Life was like everywhere else. Night releases, day tickets, Friday sarcasm with salt and vinegar crisps. Everything changed when he showed up. A new corporate economist named Gareth. Perfect blazer, shiny shoes, and PowerPoints filled with pyramids labeled optimization, efficiency, growth. At his first all hands, he said synergy about 20 times, lean 3, agile ++ twice, and sent clip art arrows soaring upward as if anything in Wales went anywhere but down in the rain. Colleagues, he thundered, our burn rate is high and margins low. We need to reframe OKRs, increase efficiency, and optimize compensation. I just smiled, remembering how last winter Dylan and I had hot fixed updates for a major client in the valleys where internet was rarer than November sunlight. A few days later, I got the classic minute of your time invite to a meeting room overlooking Cardiff Bay. Gareth sat stiff as a mannequin in a shop window with HR beside him clutching a folder that smelled of legal loopholes. Alexi, Gareth began with his corporate values video voice, we reviewed compensation and aligned it with our new efficiency policy. 2 options. Option A, your salary drops from £6,000 to £2,700 a month, perks cut, no private dental, no cycle to work, no flexible remote days. Option B, we terminate under the 2021 hybrid contract addendum and pay you £5 in severance. I blinked, then blinked again. £5? So I can buy tea and biscuits while reading your ad for senior engineer at £2,700? HR nodded dryly. Clause 7.3.2, symbolic payout during restructuring. Gareth, expressionless, let's keep emotions out of this. We're for synergy. The market demands optimization. We delegate part of your tasks to juniors, build flexibility and ownership. To juniors who've never touched our diff updater for air-gapped hospital segments near Swansea? The one that skips index rebuilds because their proxy is basically my uncle's old router and drivers still think it's XP mode? We'll build a center of excellence, he said smoothly. Documentation will cover it. Have you read the docs? No, but we will. Scheduled for Q3. That's when my anger cooled into irony. Give me a day, I said. I'll make a balanced decision. Of course, we need clarity for synergy. I'm not a schemer. I'm just the guy people called at 3 a.m. with only you know why the updates get through our museum-grade proxy. I had phone numbers. They had trust. My contract had an NDA, but no non-solicitation clause. I didn't poach, I just warned. First, Anton, the CTO of a major Cardiff client with thousands of endpoints, some offline, some through triple proxies, plus flaky scanners that loved dying on Tuesdays. Hey, restructuring here, I may leave, no documentation yet. If updates go weird, it's not sabotage, it's synergy. You're leaving? Without you, our EDR won't play nice with legacy. Keep me posted. I wasn't asking for anything, just honest context. I made 5 more calls. Newport, Bridgend, a Swansea institution, a Cardiff fintech, a manufacturer in Port Talbot. 2 later told our sales rep flat out, either him or we're out. Roughly 15% of annual revenue. Meanwhile, I peeked at the market, sent my CV to 2 competitors in Bristol and Swindon. A third reached out themselves. Heard about your lean marathon. Coffee downtown? Recruiters replied faster than our old signature scanner ever started. Offers? plus 25% over my 6,000 pounds, real managers, budget for a test lab, and zero mantras like, the documentation will endure. The next day I returned to Gareth, sat beneath his pyramid of efficiency, growth, and laid a card on the table. I'll take option B. Thanks for the generous severance. I understand. We'll replace you quickly. You'll finish documentation? Sure. First line, don't unplug the blue cables. Second, don't hit force update at 3 a.m. Third, don't touch GPO without a kettle and a do not disturb sign. HR handed me an envelope, 8 years of life reduced to the crisp crackle of 500 pounds on thin paper. I laughed out loud. They gave me garden leave and a P45. Passing by Cian, Eoin, Dylan, I said, hold on to the blue cables, and don't let anyone mess with the diff updater. That evening, I signed an offer, 7,500 pounds day rate consulting for emergencies, a sane CTO, and no synergy outside of actual code. Month 1, I slept, shipped a release in daylight, and discovered the luxury of a kettle that boiled water when I pressed the button, not every 7 minutes. Month 2, their Center of Excellence checked applies to all on a patch for version 3.9, on 3.7 agents reboot looped, IDs mishashed, support drowned in tickets, while efficiency presentations failed to print because the printers were in the global policy block. Postmortem, market volatility, and unpredictable legacy environments. Later, the efficiency architect, yes, that was the title, decided diff updates were unnecessary complexity. Disabled deltas, shipped full 300 megabyte packages in 10 megabyte per second networks. It looked like the company DDoSed itself. One client in the Abergavenny Hills saw 3-hour updates. By hour 3, accounting just went for a smoke. Then came unified security policies, block anything not signed with their cert. Sounds great until you recall their updater itself runs integration scripts signed with client certs. Irony never tasted so bitter. Finally, they modernized the installer, rewrote batch plus PowerShell into declarative JSON. Genius on slides. In practice, one client's 2012 library choked on Welsh diacritics like W. Yes, the letter W became their 0 day. The only thing not laughing was the kettle, because it was boiling. By month 3, their flagship client, the one they love to show as our growth case study, had enough and walked. 7-figure loss. In official channels, client reprioritization. In the office, new ficus plants to lift morale. Biscuits swapped for healthy snacks. Bonuses temporarily paused. Only thing growing, the risk register. Meanwhile, Gareth pinged me. Hi, interested in consulting at a day rate? Let's discuss. I looked at my wife. Is this the part where the hero says yes? This is the part where the hero remembers the 5 pounds, she said. My reply, thanks, but no. Wishing you synergy. 6 months after my P45, the company was swaying like a car on the A470 in Welsh wind. 3 more major clients left. One came to us. Not my doing. I'm no mercenary. Another to the nearest competitor. A third cobbled together open source plus commercial scanners. Rumors put losses north of 4 million. SLA fines, unpaid invoices, lost subscriptions. Junior job ads outnumbered teabags in the 4 guests jar. Plants too. Slack filled with well-being, Thursdays, and mindfulness at 8:30, about as effective as an umbrella in a hurricane. I felt sorry for my team. I helped Cian, Eoin, and Dylan with recruiters, CVs, mock interviews. They landed quickly. Talent always finds dry ground, even in Wales. Gareth, he got his. A year later, the company halved its staff and invited him to pursue new challenges. His farewell email was as flawless as his blazer. Team, we've achieved major efficiency gains and synergies. Proud of our transformation. I've accepted a role to scale my impact at group level. 21 thumbs up. 1 cactus. I added nothing. I was too busy finishing our lightweight agent that could update even through proxies built from kettles and old BT routers. In short, I regret nothing. I lost stability defined by people who think 5 pounds is a normal severance and gained respect for myself and my craft. Moved to a role where I'm paid for what I know, not for listening to the word synergy. Saw sweet revenge in pure cause and effect. Cut out the brain, the body stumbles. Cut the updater off from reality, reality cuts the client off from you. Moral, ultimatums only work if you actually hold all the cards. If your ace is just a PowerPoint with arrows and a couple of notes, Don't be surprised when someone picks up their cards, boils a kettle, says, "Thanks, but no thanks," and sits down at another table. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.